They tell you are rich. The charts, the spreadsheets, the census data, every government number cruncher in America insists that if you make over $250,000 a year, you're sitting pretty, living large, practically living in the clouds, sipping imported wine from a rooftop garden, while the rest of the country eats canned beans under fluorescent lights. But what if I told you that's a lie? Because today, we're not going to talk about the poor. We're not even going to talk about the middle class, whatever that means anymore. We're going to talk about a group you're not supposed to sympathize with. The people who on paper are supposed to be rich, but in reality are being slowly crushed, quietly, invisibly, and no one wants to hear it. We're talking about the new poor, the ones who earn 250,000, 300,000, even 350,000 a year and still feel like they're drowning. And before you scoff, before you roll your eyes and think, cry me a river, ask yourself this. What happens when the top tier starts to fall? What happens when even the people who should be okay are not? Because that's the canary in the coal mine. When the people we all assume are thriving start sounding the alarm, you'd better believe it's time to pay attention. Let's start with the basics. $250,000 a year is a massive income, objectively. That's top 10% territory. But in today's America, in post-Biden, new Trump economics, that does not get you what it used to. It barely buys the illusion of stability. Look around. College tuition, 75,000 per child per year. Good luck having 3 kids and savings account. Housing, if you want to live in a zip code with decent schools and clean water, you'd better be ready to fork over a down payment of $200,000 just to compete with overseas investors, hedge funds, and Silicon Valley tech millionaires who can pay in cash. Your utility bill? Up. Your groceries? Up. Your mortgage, if you're lucky enough to have one, locked in at a rate you'll never dare touch again because refinancing now would turn your forever home into a foreclosure waiting to happen. And the experts tell us inflation has cooled. The numbers say it's transitory. I mean, sure, you only buy economy plane tickets and 2006 Toyotas, you're fine. But for people trying to build a life, an actual American life, the dream is not just slipping. It's rotting. And here's the twist. These are the people who did everything right. They went to college, many went to grad schools, they took the so-called respectable jobs, they bought homes, not yachts, they packed lunches and signed up for their kids' extracurriculars. And now they're looking at their bank accounts and wondering if they'll have to sell stocks or their kids' future to stay afloat. Let me ask you, if families making 300,000 a year are nervous about groceries, what does that say about the system? Well, it says exactly what we already know deep down. The American middle class, especially the upper middle class, is being exterminated, squeezed from the top by oligarchs and from the bottom by inflation. They're not the ruling elite. They're not the impoverished. They're the producers, the backbone, and the system has declared them disposable. We are witnessing a class collapse engineered by decades of bad policy, by bipartisan betrayal, and complete disconnect between cost of living and what it actually takes to survive in this country. You probably heard politicians, left and right, say, we need to tax the rich. Okay, but when the government says Rich, I mean, they mean you, not the billionaires, not the trust fund tech bros riding private jets to Aspen. They mean the couple making $300,000 a year, trying to put their 3 kids through school and pay $3,600 in rent. They're not going after the Gates Foundation. They're going after you through property taxes, through rising premiums, through college aid formulas that say, sorry, you make too much for help, but not enough to afford anything. Want proof? Take a look at how student loans are structured. If you're a family making $200,000 plus, you qualify for nothing. Zero need-based aid. And yet, the tuition price tag does not change. So what happens? These families take out loans just like everyone else. They become debtors to pay for what their parents' generation got with a summer job and some hope. You know what that is? That's a rigged system. One that punishes success and bleeds dry the very people holding the economy together. And if you're watching this thinking, I make far less than that, they should suck it up, that's exactly the trap they want you in. Because the moment we start envying those slightly above us, we stop noticing what's happening at the very, very top. The mega rich, they're doing just fine. They've made 35 trillion in wealth gains since 2020 alone. You heard that right. Trillion. You want to know what real inflation-proof wealth looks like? It's not a nice house in California. It's owning the companies that make you rent that house. Because yes, even the families making $250,000 rent. And why? Because with mortgage rates at 7%, no one wants to move. They're trapped, stuck in homes they bought before the madness, or pushed out of the market altogether by investors who buy 5 houses at a time, sight unseen. The American dream was never meant to be hoarded. It was supposed to be passed on. But now, even the upper middle class, the so-called winners, are realizing they're on borrowed time. They're being outbid, outsourced, outmaneuvered, and worst of all, they're being gaslit. Told, you're doing fine. Told, stop complaining. Told, check your privilege. But the truth, there is no privilege in watching your standard of living fall faster than your tax deductions. There is no luxury in feeling like the next hospital bill might wipe out your retirement. And there is no rich in 250,000 when everything from a preschool piano class to a gallon of milk has subscription fee attached. We've created a culture where success is penalized, modest wealth is punished, and real wealth is rewarded with more. So what's the solution? Well, it starts with truth. You need to redefine what middle class really means in modern America. We need to stop vilifying the productive class. And we need to start asking why the people who keep this country running, doctors, engineers, logistics managers, small business owners, salespeople, are starting to feel like peasants. Maybe that's by design. Because the more we feel anxious, precarious, and dependent, the more we shut up and comply. If you're tired of the media ignoring what real Americans are going through, whether you're making 50,000 or 350,000 and you want bold, honest takes that cut through the noise, do me a favor. Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications. It's free. It helps more people hear the truth, and it tells the algorithm that we're not backing down. Let's keep this conversation going because trust me, the people in power won't have it unless we force them to. See you next time. Bye-bye.